Hello, my name is John Bullock, and I'm about to conduct an interview with Ramone Alexander Easter. Mr. Easter is an artist and is the creator of Cars, a concept in which is particularly close, almost identical to Disney's blockbusting franchise of Cars, a 3 animated movie series about cars that is living and live the life as that of humans. Mr. Easter, just for the viewing public, can you give us a little bit of information about your life?
About my life? Well, I was born in the South, and I went to an art school to become an artist. And after that, just worked odd jobs here and there, you know what I mean, and did a lot of paintings. Then after that, I moved to California in 1984 and took a job working at a hotel desk clerk, but at the same time, I really wanted to pursue my art. So I made a deal with a store down on Hollywood Boulevard and to let me have a little spot to sit there and do portraits of people as they walk down the boulevard, the tourists and everything. And that's what I did. And it became pretty prosperous, I mean, not a whole lot, but it took care of me, and I really enjoyed it. And by sitting there, drawing each and every day, there's a lot of cars and things running back and forth this way and that way, And one day I just got this idea, when would it be like to give those cars a personality? And from that step there, that's when I started to let my imagination run. So I did a couple of sketches of a little Volkswagen, I was kind of fond of Volkswagen. And I named him Charlie Poo Poo, and man, it looked pretty good, roughed up. And I said, maybe I should take it all away. And so I said, I've seen animation with cars with eyes, but they always put them in the headlights. So I want to humanize mine a little more, and I've never seen nobody put them in the windshield. And this is what I did. I put it in the windshield, and some of them I gave arms, but the arms were inside the door. If they needed to use the arm, there was a little slide would slide back, and the arms would come out.
And what? Excuse me for cutting you off, but what year was that? Was that?
This was in '84 and '85. Up to about 87, what I mean. I'm doing all these things back and forth, trying this out and trying this out until I met Mr. Lewis.
All right. And Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Lewis, he represent artists, all kinds of artists. He represent them, and so I thought that would be a safe passway for me to help me. And then after I had drawn up quite a few of the cars, we decided to call on Hanna-Barbera.
Let me ask you before we get too far. You drew cars, and you had what type of cars were they? And characters. How many cars did you have, and what type of characters did you have in those?
What kind of cars did I have?
Yeah, the characters, like you said you had a Charlie Poo Poo.
Oh, okay. Let me just say, okay, I had Charlie Poo Poo. He was a Volkswagen.
Right.
I had a Porsche, which was a girl. She was a designer, Okay. I had a Mustang Sally. She was a nightclub owner and stuff like this, And I had lawyers and rock and rollers, everything, everyday life, what I mean, on some of these cars. I had Tomo, he was a tow truck.
Right.
Young guy.
Okay.
Real muscular, workout,
Right.
And it was quite a few cars, I can't just name all of them, but it's
Right.
quite a few of them, you know. But that was the start of it.
Right. That sounds good. Sounds like a nice setup there.
Yeah, well, you know, sitting there every day, you know, watching automobiles on Hollywood Boulevard go back and forth, you know, you get to tripping, you say, well, yeah, make them alive, you know what I mean? And
Right.
it just jumped off from there, man. You know, from there it just jumped off, and my imagination just started to really, really run, you know.
Right. And you mentioned that you got with a guy named Mr. Lewis, and Mr. Lewis, he was what? Who was Mr. Lewis to you?
Who what?
Who was Mr. Lewis to you?
Mr. Lewis was he represent artists, and you know, make sure you get the right representation. You know, Mr. Lewis did. That's what he represent all type of artists,
Right.
actors, everything. You know, and so he represented me, and he took me in. I signed all the necessary papers. You know what I mean, and he contacted Hanna-Barbera.
Right.
You know, and
And that was around what year? Around was that you said that you started around 84, 85, 86. So he contacted Hanna-Barbera around 86, 87.
somewhere around
thereabout?
now, 86
Okay.
or last of 86 or 81st of 87, somewhere in that area.
Right.
I remember. I have it all documented, you know what I mean, but just off the top of my head, that's all. It's all about that. Mr. Lewis, he sent the letter to Miss Langford, and in turn, she wrote him back that it takes 4 to 5 weeks, you know, for her to look at a concept. And so he, in turn, sent her the material, but they weren't interested at that particular time. I went up and talked to him, Mr. Lewis, and that's what he told me, you know, it wasn't, so we kind of drifted apart, you know. He never really got in touch with me, and I never really went back, because that's what I had to sell, that particular item, you know what I mean. I didn't have nothing else to sell, and he didn't never come in, because he sure knew where I was at. We in the same block. You know, I'm right there at the corner of Highland, and he's right across from the Chinese Theater, so we know we're right there. So that's all that happened.
Okay. You had mentioned about another time that you think that you had ran into Mr. Joe Rance, something about you had sold him a Marilyn Monroe painting on Hollywood Boulevard one time that he had came by.
Yeah. He came by and said hello and everything, you know, and they were young guys at that time, you know, very young. And so he saw the Marilyn Monroe, but he liked the way it was done. And he asked me, you know, how much I wanted for it, so I let him have it for $300. It was already framed and everything, glass, it was nice. And so he took it, and that was the end of that.
Right, and that was in 1987, and then in 2005, or rather 2006, Time Warner he had acquired, I think, Hanna-Barbera via through Turner Entertainment and some other unfriendly corporate takeovers or friendly corporate takeovers, what have you. But Disney, with Pixar, produced Cars 1, the first Cars movie that came out in 2006. And that was when you and I had met, and you had mentioned that you thought that that concept was yours because everything about it was too many coincidences with the use of your name, the way that you spell your name, the use of the whole concept of cars with the eyes in the windshields. And so could you elaborate on that with your experience with after you saw Cars and Pixar with their concept?
Yeah, after I saw this, you know what I mean, and they came with the same storyline. You know, mine come from Detroit, and he was coming here to Los Angeles for an audition for a movie. You know, and he ran into couple of bad characters on his way out here, Rusty, Dusty, and Musty. But he went through some change and he got some help and he got away from those three characters and came on to Los Angeles. You know what I mean? But he was here to Los Angeles for an audition for a movie.
And some of those other characters that he ran into, like Sarge, the Sarge character that you used, that you had created, along with Mustang Sally. I think there was a Michael Jaguar, some of the other characters.
He became acquainted to, you know, after you stayed here for a while. It wasn't just that one day. This is a concept of a movie.
Right.
And, you know, so he's a different character that he met and became acquainted with, you know what I mean? And then he also had his mom and dad who moved out here, you know. He had a little rough, that was a little roughneck, a Porsche, a Ferrari. He was kind of he was a Beverly Hills boy, but he had a little attitude towards Charlie, you know, because he was a little Volkswagen,
right?
You know, and he was a Ferrari,
right?
He was rich, you know what I mean, and all that, but you know, he had a little incidents and everything, but he went on for the audition. Charlie Poo Poo did, and he got the audition. You know what I mean, to play this particular character, you know. Okay. And I kind of left it right there.
So that's how your concept ended, or is that Charlie won the position to be the star?
He got the part in this movie.
Okay.
The lead part.
Right.
You know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so in summation, your story was that they started off in Detroit, came across country, of course, Route 66, and ran into
Route 66.
The three characters, and then eventually ended up in Hollywood.
He was on his way to Hollywood
and encountered all these other celebrity type
cars.
From the
Motor City.
Okay.
Which is Detroit, from the Motor City.
Right.
And he came here to the audition, and you know, he got that part.
Right.
Now he's on his way.
Okay, and it's ironic that Disney came back here in 2006 and produced the movie Cars 1 with Pixar doing the animation, and they had a story that was very similar with their character, Lightning McQueen, and a lot of the similarities that you had, they had. So it's just ironic. And then they did a Cars 2 in 2011, and just here recently, 2017, they did Cars 3. And so I guess as time goes on, you felt taken advantage of, I would imagine, seeing your stuff, your concept, your ideas on the silver screen, so to speak. And Disney never reached out to you, never acknowledged you. Miss Langford never reached out. You never heard back from Mr. Lewis. And so it's an unfortunate thing, but I hope that there is justice that will be served in the end, that, you know, you can reach some type of agreement with Disney.